evening. India has decided it won't compromise on its national interests, and just like India under PM Modi stood its ground on farmers' interests and food security for its poor in WTO in Buenos Aires, India has once again safeguarded the interests of its farmers and industries by its decision to not be part of RCEP, that is Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, at the third RCEP summit in Bangkok. We will tell you in Newsnight tonight how India stands to gain by that decision. In focus tonight is India upholds national interest at RCEP, that the air pollution situation in Delhi NCR, Punjab, Haryana and UP, with live updates from our reporters on the field and more in this edition of Newsnight. I'm Munmun Bhattacharya. First up, the headlines. India decides not to join a Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or RCEP as all its concerns not addressed. PM Modi tells RCEP agreement does not reflect its original intent and that the outcome is not fair or balanced. Prime Minister Narendra Modi attends the 14th East Asia Summit, highlights global challenges. Leaders at the East Asia Summit adopt 3 statements, including partnership for sustainability, combating the spread of illicit drugs, and cooperation to combat transnational crimes. PM offers to host EAS, a seminar on maritime security and cooperation in Chennai in 2020. Supreme Court pulls up authorities over toxic haze enveloping Delhi. Summons Chief Secretaries of Punjab, Haryana and UP governments, questions the logic behind the odd-even scheme, directs the Delhi government to present necessary data. Principal Secretary to Prime Minister reviews measures to curb air pollution. Chief Secretaries of Delhi, Punjab, Haryana apprised the Prime Minister's office of efforts being undertaken to improve the situation. Hectic parleys in Maharashtra. Shiv Sena terms the meeting with Governor as a courtesy call. Devendra Fadnavis meets Amit Shah in New Delhi, expresses confidence that government in Maharashtra will be formed soon. Home Minister Amit Shah addresses the opening session of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization joint exercise on urban earthquake search and rescue operations in New Delhi. Says under Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision, India is championing a coalition for disaster-resilient infrastructure. One killed and 18 injured in a grenade attack by terrorists in Srinagar. Terrorists lobbed a grenade in a busy market in the heart of the city. Let's now take a look at what really happened at the third RCEP summit and how India stood its ground insofar as protecting or safeguarding national interest is concerned. This is what the Prime Minister said. Well, India stands for greater regional integration, freer trade, adherence to rules-based global order. This was the stand that was articulated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And that is PM's firm stand on RCEP at the third RCEP summit. PM also said that India worked for striking balance in the spirit of give and take, but that sentiment was not reciprocated by the other 15 RCEP countries. Present form of agreement does not fully reflect basic spirit and agreed guiding principles of RCEP, which is actually a reference to how there was a changing of goalposts over a period of time over the 7 years that the negotiations had taken place. Present form of agreement does not satisfactorily address India's outstanding issues and concerns. You would remember that until some time back, there was agreement on 21 out of 25 chapters, but those 4 chapters is where there was lack of agreement, and India has now decided to not be part of RCEP. Why? Because India says that all its concerns have not been satisfactorily addressed, so there is simply no question of joining an agreement which is not balanced and fair in nature. The Prime Minister said, our farmers, traders, professionals and industries have stakes in such decisions. And if we do not protect their interests, then these stakeholders, which are Indian stakeholders, stand to lose. And there is no compromising on their interests as far as India is concerned. PM also said that neither the talisman of Gandhi ji nor my conscience permit me to join RCEP. What is the talisman of Gandhi ji? We all know that Gandhi ji said that before you take any decision, just think of the poorest of the poor, the last man standing in the queue, and the impact that that decision is going to have on the well-being of that individual, and then take the step. So the Prime Minister is saying that the poor won't be benefited, the industry won't be benefited, the farmers won't be benefited, and that is why we have decided not to be part of the RCEP agreement. Now, India is keeping its national interest first at RCEP. India's decision to greatly benefit its farmers, MSME and dairy sector. This is the fact of the matter, that farmers, MSME, that is the medium, small and micro enterprises in the dairy sector, will not be harmed because India will now not be a part of RCEP, because RCEP is not fair, RCEP is not balanced. India makes stand clear on threat of circumvention of rules of origin due to tariff differential. So India did not agree on what the other 15 RCEP countries had decided on rules of origin. India had some concerns because it did not want products from China to dump India via other countries. India for addressing the issue of trade deficits. Now, India has an unsustainable trade deficit with 11 out of the 15 RCEP partners, and India wanted that big issue, the big elephant in the room of trade deficit, should be addressed first. India for opening of services. Now, India has always known that it has a lot of advantage insofar as its services sector is concerned, and India wanted those 15 RCEP partners to give access to India so that India can make most of its services sector. But that was not to be, and that is why India decided to not be part of RCEP. India for safeguard mechanisms to prevent import surges. So that is one big concern that India had. India did not want dumping of goods from a country like China or from other countries that would harm Indian industry and Indian farmers. India for safeguarding interests of domestic industry. So India wanted the interests of the domestic industry to be safeguarded. India wanted interests of farmers to be safeguarded. India wanted interest of the services sector in India to be safeguarded. And since none of that was happening in this current form of the RCEP agreement, India decided to stay away. India did not want to be part of such an agreement. India raises unviability of MFN obligations. So India feels that the MFN obligations that are part of the proposed RCEP agreement were unviable, they were not pragmatic, they were not practical. And here's why. Here's why India felt that. We'll tell you in the next slide why India felt that MFN obligations were unviable, as India would have to give similar benefits to RCEP countries that it gave to others. So India had reservations insofar as MFN obligations that were part of the proposed deal is concerned. Now, no credible assurance for India on market access and non-tariff barriers. India wanted some credible assurances on these issues, be it on market access, be it on non-tariff barriers, but they were not coming. Besides that, concerns on keeping 2014 as the base year for tariff reductions. This was also an extremely important point because India wanted 2019 as the base year for tariff reductions. But the other countries were insisting that 2014 should be kept as the base year for tariff reductions, and thus there was lack of agreement on this issue. So basically, India has been feeling that the present form of the RCEP agreement is at variance with the basic spirit of the RCEP agreement. Well, so that was about India's stand, and now India has decided not to be part of the RCEP, and the reasons behind it. Well, keeping national interests above geopolitical treaties and a desire to be a part of one of the largest free trade agreement, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took a firm stand and led from the front as India decided not to join the RCEP. PM Modi took the stand after it became clear that the final RCEP document will not address issues that were considered non-negotiable by India.
The world had its eyes on the outcome of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. The agreement would have been the world's largest free trade zone. However, post the third edition of RCEP summit, India decided not to join RCEP owing to unresolved issues between India and the partner nations. Taking a firm stand, Prime Minister Modi asserted that India will not become a part of the agreement until it gets a fair and balanced deal. Prime Minister said, India stands for greater regional integration as well as for freer trade and adherence to rule-based international order. India has proactively, constructively and meaningfully engaged in RCEP negotiations since inception. The present form of RCEP agreement does not fully reflect the basic spirit and the agreed guiding principles of RCEP. It also does not address satisfactorily India's outstanding issues and concerns. In such a situation, it is not possible for India to join RCEP agreement.
India conveyed its decision at the summit not to join the RCEP agreement. This reflects both our assessment of the current global situation as well as of the fairness and balance of the agreement. India had significant issues of core interest that remained unresolved. In his remarks on this subject, Prime Minister highlighted that he was guided by the impact it would have on the lives and livelihoods of all Indians, especially vulnerable sections of society.
Prime Minister made it clear that our farmers, traders, professionals and industries have stakes in such decisions. Equally important are the workers and consumers who make India a huge market and the third biggest economy in terms of purchasing power parity. When I measure RCEP agreement with respect to the interest of all Indians, I do not get a positive answer. Therefore, neither the talisman of Gandhiji nor my own conscience permits me to join RCEP. According to the Free Trade Agreement, the regulations for import and export of goods will be eased. Under this agreement, the member states will have to reduce taxes and build an ecosystem conducive to trade. Post the signing of agreement, the member states will get an increased access of goods and services amongst each other. Apart from the 10 ASEAN member states, India, China, Japan, Australia, New Zealand and South Korea were to be part of the RCEP agreement.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has once again proved beyond doubt that when it comes to national interests and protecting them, there shall not be any compromise at all, even if that means taking a firm stand against all, even if that means swimming against the tide, and even if that means going alone. For those who walk alone, inevitably walk faster. With camera person Krishna Kumar Rana and my colleague Vibhav Rai, Ravi Dhiman, DD News, Bangkok, Thailand.
And that brings us to our In Focus tonight, which is India upholds national interest at RCEP. To discuss that, we are joined in the studio by economist Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi. And our correspondent Ravi Dhiman is now joining us from Bangkok for more. Good evening, Ravi. What were the aspects of the RCEP agreement on which India had valid concerns and thus decided not to be part of this agreement?
Good evening, Munmun. India had concerns on some of the aspects, and India had raised those concerns, and India had wished that those concerns be addressed effectively in the RCEP agreement, but that was not to be. The first obvious concern was with relation to the import surge or the dumping of goods by any country. If there was a dumping of goods under the RCEP, there is no safeguard on that, and India was apprehensive that this could be utilized and by some countries, and lots of goods which were really not on sale there, or which were not having a good market there in those domestic domains, would have been dumped in India under the guise of this agreement. India wanted safeguards against that, particularly against the dumping of perishable goods. That was not to be. Another thing was the insufficient differentials with China. India has a huge trade deficit with China, even before the free trade agreement. And RCEP would have necessarily meant, in a way or other or another, a free trade agreement in effect ipso facto with China. And we know that China has a huge manufacturing base. It has a very dominating manufacturing industry, and that would have led to a further decline in the trade balance with India. India wanted some specific safeguards as regard this, and which obviously didn't find mention in the RCEP document. Another thing which you said was the base year of 2019, which India wanted. And there was a possibility, India had raised this possibility of circumvention of the rules of origin. What that necessarily means, Munmun, is that if a Chinese good doesn't get a direct entry into India on the basis of RCEP agreement, if there are safeguards in place, those goods can find their place into another ASEAN country or any other country which is a signatory to the agreement, and from that country these goods with a little or no value addition can be painted or printed as made in those ASEAN nations and again dumped in India. India wanted specific safeguards as regard these, and obviously these didn't find mention in the document also. And India wanted some credible assurances of market access to its services sector, to its pharmaceutical sector. That was not given. And non-tariff barriers, there were no assurances as far as non-tariff barriers are concerned on many countries. So all these aspects led India to believe, and quite rightly so, that this deal is not in favor of India. This deal, in fact, goes against India and its domestic industry, its the impoverished people, vulnerable section of our society, and it would affect them adversely. And that made the Prime Minister take a firm stand and take a decision that India will remain out of this agreement.
Ravi, did the goalposts change from the basic spirit of RCEP in the final agreement?
India had tried and made it clear that it is not against joining the RCEP per se. India has always made its position very clear that we will join the RCEP if these conditions are met, if these concerns are addressed adequately. And that was not to be, there was some talk by some nations which said that India had suddenly demanded something huge at the 11th hour, but that was not to be. India has maintained a consistent position ever since the negotiations began for RCEP, and we had maintained those positions, we had maintained our line, and when inevitably, when it seemed evident that these were not to be given to India, India had decided to let it go and decide not to join the RCEP.
Ravi, will India not explore joining the RCEP any further? Is there a word of finality on that? Also, is India looking at other markets, for instance, the United States and the European Union, where its industry and services would get access to more developed markets? Is India now interested in closing trade agreements with the EU and the US?
Well, India already has a free trade agreement with the ASEAN bloc. And I mean, the outcome of that has not been very much in favor of India. We have a trade deficit there also. And as per the Secretary East MEA, Vijay Thakur saying, India will continue to pursue other avenues. India will continue to pursue trade agreements where its domestic industry can also flourish and take advantage of free trade agreements. As far as EU is concerned, India has been engaging with the EU for past many years for a free trade agreement, and that is yet to see, yet to fructify, but the efforts are going on. And similarly with other major markets of the world, India will try and have a free trade agreement. The apprehensions in RCEP were primarily because India believed that this would lead to an import surge in the country. It would lead to our domestic industry at a very uncompetitive rates would have to compete with the imports which would have come to Indian markets, flooded the Indian markets, and that is why India had to take this decision.
Right, Ravi. Thank you for those updates from Bangkok. So that was our correspondent Ravi Dhiman reporting on the key developments as they panned out at the third RCEP summit, with India deciding to safeguard its national interest and thus not join the RCEP. That is the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. And Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi continues to be with us. Dr. Chaturvedi, has India played a tough negotiator once again, even though India has always been and continues to be in favor of free trade and closer economic integration?
That's right, Munmun. If you look at the history of trade negotiations in case of India, you find that at several points we have faltered, we have gone haywire, but this time in a grouping of 16 member countries, the position that Prime Minister took is really exemplary. It's a historic decision, and I think it's absolutely essential to give that tough message, though I do not see this as a final word. If you look at the joint statement that leaders have adopted, the last paragraph I think is absolutely clear, which very clearly says that India has significant outstanding issues which remain unresolved. And the last line I think is absolutely crucial. It says India's final decision will depend on satisfactory resolution of these issues. So the final word has yet to come, but Prime Minister has given a very clear political message that was required to be given in a summit that was looking forward for everybody coming together under the text which was already negotiated. This was the third summit and people were expecting that India would cave in, but fortunately Prime Minister asserted and we have prevailed. We have prevailed with several chapters that were there. As you see, the joint statement also lists the 20 chapters that are there, and on several of them we had already agreed. But India should have got what India asked for right from the beginning. And as you were asking your correspondent whether goalposts were shifting, yes, they were shifting because we agreed for a tiered approach on tariff. We agreed for bringing in services, and every time the proposals that were going on, there was dilution in the subsequent text. So I think as a tough negotiator, our Prime Minister has once again on an international stage has given a very clear message. The fact that these countries are interested in Indian market is obviously the leveraging point.
Absolutely, and they lose out on this market, which is really huge in nature, unfortunately for those 15 RCEP partners. But having said that, India has had a reputation, especially under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, of not succumbing to external pressures, not succumbing to demands which are unsustainable, which are not fair, which are imbalanced, isn't it? Look at what had happened at the WTO, where India stood its ground on protecting farmers' interests, where India stood its ground in protecting food security for its poor, and after that the tough negotiations that took place over the Paris climate deal.
And you remember, Munmun, the certificate that President Trump gave to Prime Minister.
Absolutely, in Houston. We all heard
in Houston as a tough negotiator.
Yes.
So I think PM has again reflected the same nerve in Bangkok. It's absolutely clear to our partner countries. Prime Minister attended other platforms as well in Bangkok and gave a very clear message of centrality of ASEAN, India's close ties with them. The External Affairs Minister also gave the same message. But when it came to negotiations, protecting the interests of our farmers and our producers, Prime Minister was very firm and very clear as to what the way forward should be.
Was it out of question to be part of an unfair and imbalanced RCEP, considering that India has now taken up FTA's review with several countries? We know that there is an agreement that India has been able to bring about on doing a review of the India-ASEAN FTA, and these were all signed, we know when. And there are unsustainable trade deficits that India has with most of these countries with which there have been FTAs. So considering that India has already been trying to review those FTAs which have only ended up hurting Indian industry and services in the short term, medium term, long term, would you say that it was simply out of question for India to succumb under any pressure, especially when it comes to an unfair agreement of this
Definitely, Munmun, at the political level, that kind of messaging was extremely and very badly required, was extremely necessary, and I am glad that PM gave that message. But at the same time, I think when it comes to competitiveness of our industry, the measures that the government has taken, I think, are also very important, and we need to scale them up so that our industry is competitive, prepared to take on international sort of competition which is required. You see Vietnam, you see Indonesia, they all have entered in. So why India should be afraid? We also have to see that our industry is prepared, and Prime Minister and the government has given several incentives in terms of enabling the industry to compete. So now that we have worked out of RCEP, I think more measures are required to see that the competitiveness comes in and we are part of the global trading regime, because that's where the mega share of our GDP has been coming in. A country which has GDP of 45% coming out of our international engagement, both export and import. I think it's very, very important that we remain part of the global initiatives, but then definitely not at the cost of interest of our farmers and producers. And I'm glad that it was protected today. It's a historic positioning, but at the same time, we also need to take that our house is in order. We need to see that new measures are introduced where industry is more competitive.
Okay, by virtue of example, can you explain to our viewers that what is the cost that India would have incurred had it been part of an imbalanced and unfair FTA? For instance, India is the world's largest milk producer. What would have happened to our milk industry had there been cheap imports from, say, New Zealand or Australia? What would have happened to our steel industry? You know, what would have happened to farmers as a whole?
You are absolutely right, Manmohan. Both the sectors, steel and dairy, which came up as a major source of worry and have triggered in a positioning that we saw today. But I think it's important for us to see sector by sector what kind of implications are there. The services sector, we should not forget. We have been trying to ensure market access for services and bringing in services, because that's the mega economy which is contributing to GDP and international trade.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister did say in his interview with the Bangkok Post that if we are willing to make concessions on the goods front, why are the other 15 RCEP countries not willing to make concessions on the services front, which is our strength?
Exactly, and services and the skilled people contributing to various sectors, the chartered accountants, the medical doctors, nurses and other professionals, lawyers, they all have been contributing, and there are several economies within the ASEAN region, particularly Singapore, where access to services is extremely important, and India should have got that access. That's where the disequilibrium came in.
Fair enough. Now, at the same time, we are hearing a lot of cacophony coming from the political opposition in India. They were saying that India should not get into the RCEP trade agreement, but look at what had happened during the UPA regime, for instance. Records show that 2010, 2011 were the years when India entered into free trade agreements with ASEAN, with some other countries like Japan, Malaysia, as well as South Korea. And look at how the trade deficit has soared from 2004 to 2014. That is in a matter of 10 years. It soared by $71 billion. And it's so unsustainable that now India has had to review all of these FTAs. On some there is agreement to review, on some it is trying to, get a review to happen. So what does one make of this cacophony?
See, Munmun, I think even if we leave aside the past, it is important that India evolve the strategic trade vision, which is required in terms of we to respond as to what sector and when it is to be opened. If you look at the way China positioned itself in terms of joining WTO, China prepared the domestic sector before it was open for global competition. So some kind of sequencing is required, and I think we have to do it very fast. We can't end up being protectionist. We cannot end up being simply giving the infant industry argument. It's no more valid, but we have to see that we use this time that we have now borrowed in the RCEP negotiations for enhancing the competitiveness of our economy. That I think is extremely important, and history is very clear. Munmun, you are right that 2011 onwards we entered in agreements. In fact, 2007 onwards, if you see, continuously till 12 when we last negotiated and jumped in RCEP,
yeah.
we required preparation. There was also a pressure in 2013 to join TPP, but fortunately the Commerce Ministry resisted those pressures at that point, but we would have to be very careful in terms of the geopolitics which is there associated with trade. It is no more de-linked. So while US can afford doing that, India would have to really go a long way in terms of ensuring that international trade continue to contribute the amount of GDP that we need.
No, absolutely. Strategic interests and trade interests are interlinked.
That's
and
right.
RCEP was also being seen from the perspective of both these aspects, and the impact of the FTAs in the past regimes has been such that India had opened 74% of its market to ASEAN countries, but a country, for instance, like Indonesia had opened just 50% of its market to India. So that says it all about how balanced those FTAs were. Well,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And I think we also required the review that you mentioned of India-ASEAN FTA, but then we also have with Singapore, South Korea and Japan, which also require a thorough review.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Sachin Chaturvedi, for having joined us in Newsnight tonight on this. Our second top focus, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who was on a 3-day visit to Thailand to attend the 35th ASEAN Summit, held a number of bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the summit. His meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was an important one, where the two leaders discussed a number of issues, including bilateral cooperation in several areas. PM Modi also met the Prime Ministers of Vietnam and Australia.
On the third and final day of his Thailand visit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi met Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. This was the third meeting in the last 4 months. The leaders discussed the forthcoming meeting that will further strengthen the bilateral ties. They have also discussed ways to ensure peace and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region. During the meeting, the leaders reaffirmed their commitment towards a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific region based on rules-based order. They agreed to further strengthen bilateral cooperation for achieving the shared objective of peace, prosperity and progress of the Indo-Pacific region. The two leaders discussed the inaugural 2+2 Foreign and Defence Ministerial Dialogue that will take place later this month. India will also host the India-Japan Annual Summit this year in December. Prime Minister Modi said he is eagerly looking forward to host Prime Minister Abe and express confidence that the summit will deepen India-Japan strategic and global partnership. The two also reviewed the progress of the Mumbai-Ahmedabad high-level rail project. Economic engagement between the two nations has grown exponentially over the years.
Our Prime Minister looked forward to Prime Minister Abe's visit to India for the India-Japan Annual Summit in December 2019.
Apart from Japan, PM Modi held bilateral meetings with Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc.
They reviewed the progress which is being made in the bilateral relationship in defense and security. They looked at the economic partnership and working together in various fields, including in the oil and gas sector. They welcomed the commencement of direct flights between the two countries. You have a flight now between Calcutta and Ho Chi Minh City, and Vietjet will also be starting a flight from Hanoi to Delhi.
And Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and discussed issues of mutual interest.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison accepted the invitation of Prime Minister to visit India, and he would, during his visit, be the keynote speaker at the Raisina Dialogue in January this year, 2020.
Prime Minister Modi has held several bilateral meetings over the last 3 days and found common ground to unresolved crucial issues, keeping mutual benefit in mind. With Sudhir Yadav and Ravi Dhiman in Bangkok, Bureau Report, DD India.
Supreme Court issued a slew of directions to Delhi NCR, Punjab, Haryana and UP governments to curb alarming levels of air pollution in Delhi NCR. Here's what they were.
Supreme Court on Monday said people in Delhi NCR are losing precious years of their lives and cannot be left to die due to the atrocious pollution situation that reflects a shocking state of affairs. The court directed neighbouring Punjab, Haryana and Western Uttar Pradesh to stop stubble burning. The top court also stopped all construction and demolition activities as well as garbage and waste burning in the Delhi National Capital Region till further orders. Passing a slew of directions to curb alarming pollution levels in Delhi NCR, it said citizens cannot be evacuated from the national capital amid reports that people have been advised not to visit the city and leave it due to environmental hazard. The apex court also questioned the implementation of odd-even scheme. The court asked how it was a viable option when it would only lead to increased use of autos and taxis. It also questioned the Delhi government's failure to add 3,000 buses to the transport system as promised. The court stipulated that breaking the ban on construction activity would entail a fine of 1 lakh rupees while a fine of 5,000 rupees would be charged for burning of garbage. The court also sternly directed central and state governments to take strong action instead of indulging in a blame game. Supreme Court has summoned Chief Secretaries of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh on November 6th over stubble burning issues in their states. Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar lashed out at the AAP government, asking whether it was following the Central Pollution Control Board's directives aimed at combating the severe air pollution in the national capital. He further said that while the central government had spent 1100 crores to help farmers in this regard, the AAP government had spent 1500 crore rupees on advertisements.
CPCB ने जितने आदेश दिए हैं दिल्ली सरकार वो देखे और उसमें से कितने का पालन किया है ये बताए, और वो कह रहे हैं कि और मशीन क्यों नहीं दे रहे, 22 लाख किसान हैं तो 40,000 मशीन क्यों दे रहे, तो हमने तो 1100 करोड़ दिए, ये 1500 करोड़ रुपए एडवर्टीजमेंट में बेकार करने के बजाय दिल्ली सरकार दिल्ली का प्रदूषण कम होने के लिए 1500 करोड़ किसानों को क्यों नहीं देती।
Delhi is choking under the impact of severe pollution, and the apex court's RCEP could lead to better results as it slammed authorities both at the centre and states. With Vikas Sarthi, Shailendra Mishra, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
And now our correspondent Vikas Sarthi, who tracks proceedings in the Supreme Court and tracked this case in the Apex Court today, joins us on the phone line. Good evening, Vikas. Would you say that through its slew of directions today, the Supreme Court prodded the states of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and also Delhi to come up with a plan of action sooner than later?
All right, Munmun, the Supreme Court was of the view that whatever these people are doing in their respective states, the court was talking about farmers. Court said that they knew very well that it is so much harmful still, despite Supreme Court's direction and other authorities' directions. Still, people are burning stubble in their areas, and in fact, court said that the main problem here is that local administration has failed to implement directions of state government as well as the Supreme Court. So now the court will have to go into the details that why these directions have not been implemented. Apart from it, court said that though even APCA said that Haryana has made some progress in tackling with this stubble burning issue, but Punjab is still much far behind Haryana. And apart from it, court was of the view that these measures are only pressed when the crisis become unmanageable. It happens every year. It has become a regular feature that in the winters, 15 to 20 days, people will have to suffer. All governments know about it, but they don't do anything. So court said that people die because of this, but still there is only blame game, there is only electioneering, and state governments have failed to implement these Supreme Court's directions. Now, these chief secretaries of 3 states have been summoned. Court will ask them that why they have failed to implement the directions on the ground, because court said that we have given directions, but if people on the ground will not implement it, then there will be no result of this whole exercise. So definitely Supreme Court will pull up officials of the state governments, and apart from it, court has also sought response from Delhi government that whether they have any kind of data to say that odd even scheme is successful in tackling the smog in the Delhi NCR region. Court said that you may ban certain vehicles, but people will have to go to their schools, to their offices, and they will fly in the auto rickshaw and cab, and so the net result will not be that much effective as it is stated that odd even scheme is so much successful. So court has sought data at how much pollution has been reduced because of this scheme.
Absolutely, Vikas. So the Supreme Court expressing its anguish on the situation with regard to air quality in North India and also issuing a slew of directions to bring the situation under control. Thank you, Vikas, for those updates after you tracked the day's proceedings in the Apex Court. Let's now take a look at the air quality in Delhi in 2019 and how that compares with 2018. The black line that you are seeing here is the air quality around Diwali time in 2018. The white line that you see here is the air quality in Delhi in 2019. So this is a comparative picture, and these are PM 2.5 levels on our right side. So on the 31st of October, you'll see that the PM 2.5 in 2019 was around 290, and then it moved up around 3rd November to around 640, and then it fell, and it's now come down to 240, but this is severe. Nevertheless, it's expected to improve to a very poor category sooner than later. And look at how the situation was in 2018, where on the 8th of November, that was the Diwali time, there was a peak in air quality levels in 2018 at around 640. So by and large, the situation is more or less the same between 2018 and 2019, but particularly the last few days have been extremely bad. So this was the situation of PM 2.5 in Delhi and the comparative picture of Delhi's AQI in 2018 and 2019. Here's a look at the air quality across cities today. So Delhi recorded a severe air quality index at 432. Pune was much better off at 39, and that's a good AQI. Mumbai was also doing extremely good comparatively at 67, satisfactory. 72, satisfactory for Ahmedabad. So that's about 4 different places, Delhi, Pune, Mumbai as well as Ahmedabad. So 4 main cities. This is the picture of the AQI. Delhi fares worst at 432. Now a look at the situation in Delhi today. If you see, PM10 levels in Delhi are 432, PM 2.5 317. Better than yesterday, but still not safe at all for Delhiites and residents of Delhi NCR, because they are in the severe category and there are severe health repercussions that this can have on the residents of Delhi NCR. Tomorrow's forecast is a little better. So from 432, PM10 levels will go down to 302 from 2.5. PM 2.5 levels will go down to 22. That is poor and very poor. And then in the poor category, PM10 levels 224, PM 2.5 238, that is after 3 days. So the situation is expected to gradually improve, it seems, over a period of time. So the situation still far from satisfactory today, but things are likely to improve. Our correspondents are joining us from the field now, from Delhi, Punjab, as well as from Uttar Pradesh. Let's go across to Meghna, who's joining us from Delhi. Meghna, if you're with us, I wanted to ask you as to which were the worst affected areas in national capital and in the Delhi NCR region.
Yes, absolutely, Munmun. Yes, from a few days we are seeing that there is a blanket of smog that is actually encircling the Delhi NCR region, and we obviously had crossed the 1000 AQI mark. But today, because of there is a little bit of wind, and it's the wind is blowing almost 19-20 kilometers per hour of speed. So this has helped, bring down the pollution in Delhi NCR region. And there are few places, especially when we talk about Anand Vihar, we talk about ITU, and these places have recorded a little less amount of pollution today as compared to yesterday. And also, Munmun, I would like to show you some data here. As you just said that when we talk about today in Delhi, the current air quality index it's updated at 9:40 p.m. and it's 467. It says it's obviously very severe, but it's definitely a little less than what it was yesterday and a few days before. Also, when we see tomorrow's forecast, we also have 379 AQI air quality index. Though it is very poor, but it's still way better than what we had a few days ago. So these are the 2 things which are being seen here. Also, when we know the Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister also reviewed the entire situation, and he asked for immediate action on it. Also, the Chief Secretary of Delhi also told that there are water sprinklers being used, and the sprinklers, the use of the sprinklers are being intensified. There's a good news as well, Munmun, right here. Amidst all this, scorching of nose and stung eyes, there's a little bit of good news that the meteorological department has given, that in a few days the weather is going to remain favorable. So around 8th or 7th of November, there might be a little bit of rainfall, but the weather is going to remain favorable. That means that the pollution levels can keep on decreasing, as we have just seen. As you have also told, that the data, that the air quality index is slightly improving, though it is still very, very poor, but yet it is showing a little bit of a steady downfall as compared to what we have crossed the 1000 mark as well. And also, when we are fining for the stubble burning, and we are fining for garbage dumping, so these fines, when strictly being implemented on ground level, might just just also help a little bit of improvisation in the air pollution levels. Also, Monmon, here what is important is the stubble burning is, though it's causing very disastrous effect on the air quality, it's also very important to see that what kind of data is going to come out of the odd even scheme, when we know that the Supreme Court has asked for the data of the odd even scheme, that how effective it is, because there are still vehicles flying on the road and it's not an effective agenda of promoting public transportation as it was supposed to be. So that when the data will come, it will obviously be reflecting on that. But when we know that the wind is blowing properly and the meteorological department is indicating on some better weather conditions in the upcoming few days, there might be a little respite in the peak pollution that the people of Delhi NCR region are facing. Yes, Munmun.
Absolutely. So Delhiites are waiting for wind and rain, and the forecast says that the situation could improve in the next few days. Thank you, Meghna, for having joined us from Delhi. And now correspondent Amrit Pal is joining us from Punjab. Amrit, how did Punjab fare in terms of AQI, and are any preventive measures being taken against stubble burning? Is penal action also being taken against those farmers who continue to burn stubble?
The situation is unhealthy in Punjab. The current AQI at this hour is 194, which is way above anything above 150 is bad. If I take you to the major cities, Amritsar, the AQI at this hour, Munmun, is 184. Bathinda is faring very, very badly, 208. Fatehgarh Sahib 241, Jalandhar 153, Ludhiana 179, Patiala is really, really bad, 303. And Roopnagar or Ropar is slightly better. Where I am in Kapurthala, it is close to about 200, and this is primarily because of the stubble burning which is going on. And let me tell you, I've traveled through Punjab for the past 2 days. You can see it right on the highway. You know, stubble burning is going unabated. The state government says it's received about 21,000 complaints, and out of which only 3,000 farmers have been penalized till now. The enforcement department of the Punjab administration has fined them about 62 lakhs. The Punjab Pollution Control Board has fined about 41 lakhs. But the stubble burning is going on unabated. When you talk to the farmers, I spoke to the farmers and I asked them, they said, we have small land holdings. What do? We can't invest in harvesters. It is not economically viable for us. And in fact, that's the view the Punjab and Haryana High Court took last year when they had, they've stayed the fines imposed by the Punjab government the last year on the stubble burning, saying that when farmer suicides are taking place, do you want to add to the economic woes? On the other hand, we know what the Supreme Court today said. It said that Punjab and Haryana, what is going on? Is there any governance left in the state? You'll be penalized right from the Joint Secretary level to the Sarpanch level. So it is your responsibility now. So it's a bind. You know, it's really a dilemma for the state government.
Right.
How far to go? Because the reality is that the farmers have been traditionally doing it. But on the other hand, yes, it's causing pollution, and now it has come to a level where it is affecting daily life. It's like living in a gas chamber now.
Absolutely. Maybe with the intervention of the Supreme Court, things could improve a little, slightly at least, over a period of time. Thank you for having joined us, Amrit Pal from Punjab. And now Ashutosh is joining us from Lucknow. Ashutosh, how did Lucknow and other key cities or other places in Uttar Pradesh fare on AQI, and is the UP government looking at any short-term, medium-term or even long-term measures to combat this situation going forward?
बिल्कुल मुनमुन अगर हम कहें तो गाजियाबाद से लेकर के लखनऊ तक जो है पूरी तरह से इस पूरे पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश की जो है सांसें फूल रही हैं। देश के 15 जो है सबसे ज्यादा वायु प्रदूषित शहरों में 6 शहर ऐसे हैं जो उत्तर प्रदेश से संबंध रखते हैं, उत्तर प्रदेश के हैं, चाहे वो गाजियाबाद हो, सहारनपुर हो, मुजफ्फरनगर हो या फिर राजधानी लखनऊ हो। और जिस तरीके से आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो है इस पूरे वायु प्रदूषण के मामले में हस्तक्षेप किया है, उसको लेकर के आज दिन भर पूरे प्रदेश में गहमा गहमी रही। कई सरकारी संस्थानों और इसके साथ पराली जलाने वाले किसानों के साथ साथ तमाम सारे बिल्डर्स के ऊपर खिलाफ कार्रवाई हुई है। उनको जो है उनके ऊपर दंड लगाए गए हैं, जुर्माने लगाए गए हैं और इसके बाद सरकार जो है कहीं न कहीं जो है इस पूरी सिचुएशन से निपटने के लिए, और अगर खासतौर पर राजधानी लखनऊ की हम बात करें तो यहाँ पर नगर निगम जो है इस प्रदूषण को कम करने के लिए पेड़ों पर पानी के छिड़काव से लेकर के और कहीं पर धुआं न उठे इसको लेकर के, कूड़े को न जलाएं लोग, इसको लेकर के अपनी कार्रवाइयों में व्यस्त है। लेकिन जो स्थिति है मुनमुन, साफ तौर पर हम कह सकते हैं कि जो आपने पूछा कि शॉर्ट टर्म या लॉन्ग टर्म क्या सरकार की तैयारी है, उसमें जब पूरी तरीके से राजधानी लखनऊ सहित पूरे पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश की सांसें फूल जाती हैं, उसके बाद कहीं न कहीं लोग और सरकार दोनों यह सोचना शुरू करते हैं कि आखिर इससे कैसे मुक्ति पाई जा सकती है। और लेकिन ज्यों यह स्थिति समाप्त होगी उसके बाद तुरंत लोग जो है वही कार्य करते हैं जिससे कि यह स्थिति दोबारा बनती है जी। जहां तक पराली जलाने का सवाल है, पश्चिमी उत्तर प्रदेश में इस बात का मुनमुन चलन है कि पराली जलाते हैं, लेकिन लखनऊ से इधर पूर्वी उत्तर प्रदेश में उस पराली का दूसरे तौर पर कहीं न कहीं उपयोग होता है, किसान उसका उपयोग करते हैं। पराली जलाने की परंपरा बहुत ही कम है, जिसके कारण पूर्वी उत्तर प्रदेश में वो वायु प्रदूषण की स्थिति नहीं है जो राजधानी लखनऊ से लेकर के गाजियाबाद तक है। जी
बिल्कुल, तो मोटा मोटा हाल वही है, चाहे हम दिल्ली की बात करें, चाहे हम लखनऊ की बात करें, चाहे हम कपूरथला की बात करें, कि जो स्थिति है वो गंभीर है और बहुत कदम उठाने होंगे अगर स्थिति को काबू में लाना है। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आशुतोष आपका लखनऊ से हमारे साथ जुड़ने के लिए। We'll take a break at this point in time. After the break, news continues. Welcome back. Union Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar on Monday stressed on the need for self-regulation to tackle any problem while asking industries to keep their pollution load in check. Speaking at the ICC Sustainability Conclave 2019, Chemical Industry in India Environmentally Sound Management, the minister urged industries to exercise responsible care and extended producer responsibility, saying the government is ready to give freedom to industries if they show an environmentally responsible behavior.
Union Minister for Environment and Climate Change Prakash Javadekar has said, to tackle any problem, responsible behavior and good partnership is important. Emphasizing on the need to have new institutions, he said more and more sectors should be moved towards self-regulation.
Responsible freedom देने के लिए भी हम तैयार है, उसके लिए responsible care और एक self-regulatory mechanism institution building के तरीके से तैयार करना चाहिए, क्योंकि उसके बिना देश तरक्की नहीं करता। प्लास्टिक कलेक्ट नहीं किया जाता और उसका रिसाइकल के लिए, रीयूज के लिए नहीं जाता, ये प्रश्न है। प्लास्टिक प्रश्न नहीं है, प्लास्टिक कचरा उठाया नहीं जाता, ये प्रश्न है।
Delivering the inaugural address at ICC Sustainable Conclave 2019 on chemical industry in India, environmentally sound management, the minister expressed happiness that this time there was a drop in firecracker used during Diwali because children pledged not to burst crackers.
इस बार जैसे फायर क्रैकर के विरोध में कितने भी सख्ती के नियम कोर्ट करे या कानून करे या सरकार करे, सेल्फ रेगुलेशन केवल दिल्ली में नहीं, देश भर के बच्चों ने इस बार एक प्रण सा कर दिया और देश भर में लगभग कंजम्पशन 75% ड्रॉप हुआ। ये एक बहुत बड़ी सफलता है। दिस इज द रिजल्ट ऑफ सेल्फ रेगुलेशन। आप अंदर से बदलते हैं।
The Environment Minister also spoke about water efficiency and stressed on conserving it. He said Indian lifestyle is very environmentally conscious, but that has not been the case for industries and business. He further added that the NDA government is ready to give industries freedom from regulation as long as they are responsible. With inputs from Shailendra Mishra, Newsnight Desk, DD India.
Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis met BJP President Amit Shah in Delhi, and Shiv Sena leader Sanjay Raut met the governor on Monday. But there was no clarity yet on formation of the new government in the state. Here's all that transpired through the day on government formation efforts in the state.
Suspense continues over government formation in Maharashtra despite a clear mandate for the BJP Shiv Sena combine. Even though Monday saw political activity gaining momentum, there was still no solution to the stalemate. Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis met Amit Shah in New Delhi, while NCP Chief Sharad Pawar met Interim Congress Chief Sonia Gandhi in New Delhi. Officially, the meeting between Fadnavis and Shah was said to be over farmer issues, but the political scenario in the state also figured in the discussions. This was the first meeting between Shah and Fadnavis after the assembly election results.
सत्ता के समीकरण में कौन क्या कह रहा है, इस पर मैं कोई टिप्पणी नहीं करूंगा। कई लोग बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन भारतीय जनता पार्टी कोई टिप्पणी करने वाली नहीं है। मैं इतना ही कहना चाहता हूं कि महाराष्ट्र को नई सरकार की जल्द से जल्द आवश्यकता है और जल्द से जल्द नई सरकार बनेगी। हम पूरी तरीके से आश्वस्त हैं।
Monday also saw the Shiv Sena Sanjay Raut meeting State Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari.
जो सरकार नहीं बन रही है आज तक और जो एक कंफ्यूजन एक बन गया है पूरे राजनीतिक माहौल में, उसके लिए हम जिम्मेदार नहीं है। हम चाहते हैं सरकार बने और किसी की भी सरकार बनने में शिवसेना रोड़ा नहीं डाल रही है। जिसके पास बहुमत है वो सरकार बनाएगा।
Meanwhile, the delay in government formation is causing some stir in the opposition camp as well. Without explicitly saying it, the NCP indirectly indicated to being open to an alliance with the Shiv Sena, even as it placed the ball in the Sena's court. As it said, the proposal should come from the Shiv Sena.
I came to Delhi. I had a meeting with Mrs. Gandhi. Mr. A.K. Anthony was also present. And I briefed her the ground level situation of Maharashtra.
After a number of rapid developments, the turmoil over government formation in Maharashtra has finally reached Delhi now. It remains to be seen now how the final picture shapes up and who finally steers the helm of this state.
Shiv Sena senior leaders Sanjay Raut and also Ramdas Kadam met the governor of Maharashtra, Bhagat Singh Koshyari, and held a discussion. After meeting with the governor, Shiv Sena leader spoke to the media and said that it was just a courtesy meeting, and he informed the governor that whatever happening in the state as far as complete message concerned, Shiv Sena is not responsible for the situations prevailing in the state. However, he refused to comment on what is the latest stand of Shiv Sena. With camera person Suresh Kale, this is Yogesh Kumar Seetal from the Governor House, Mumbai for DD News.
Home Minister Amit Shah today inaugurated the Shanghai Cooperation Organization joint exercise on urban earthquake search and rescue 2019 in New Delhi. The event will continue till the 7th of this month. Inaugurating the event, the Home Minister said that about 3 lakh people lost their lives between 1996 to 2015 in SCO countries due to natural disasters. Out of these 2 lakh people who lost their lives due to earthquake, it is really a matter of concern for people in SCO nations.
Lakhs of earthquakes occur every year around the world. However, according to an estimate, information of about only 1,000 earthquakes reaches us. Today, all major countries in the world are exposed to a range of natural disasters like earthquake, floods, storms and landslides that lead to heavy loss of lives and property. Against these backdrop, Union Home Minister Amit Shah on Monday inaugurated the 4-day SCO joint exercise on Urban Earthquake Search and Rescue 2019 in New Delhi. The exercise is aimed at rehearsing disaster response mechanism and share knowledge, experience and technology so that the impact of earthquakes can be reduced in urban areas.
किर्गिस्तान में हुई एससीओ के देशों की सरकारी विभागों के प्रमुखों की 9वीं बैठक में भाग लिया था। इस बैठक में हमने ये प्रस्ताव किया था कि भारत शहरी भूकंप सर्च और बचाव विषय पर एक संयुक्त अभ्यास आयोजित कर सकता है। हमारे प्रस्ताव का सभी एससीओ के राष्ट्रों ने दिल से स्वागत किया था।
All the SCO member countries, including China, India, Russia, among others, are participating in the exercise that will continue till 7th of November. Along with this, representatives from Brazil, Mongolia and South Africa have also been invited as observers. This exercise will also provide an opportunity to enhance coordination and cooperation for immediate response to natural disasters.
वर्ष 1996 से वर्ष 2015 की अवधि के दौरान एससीओ देशों में प्राकृतिक आपदाओं से लगभग 3 लाख लोगों की जान गई है। इसमें से 2 लाख से अधिक लोगों की जान भूकंप से गई है।
Government has launched several initiatives to minimize destruction due to earthquakes. In this regard, IIT Patna is working on technology to promote building of earthquake-resistant houses in the future. Neeraj Singh's report, DD India.
In the 50th International Film Festival of India, or IFFI, in Goa, 190 films from 76 countries will be screened. Information and Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar said that this film festival would showcase glimpses of the cultural heritage of Goa and the other parts of the country. He said superstar Rajnikant would be honoured with a special Icon of Golden Jubilee of IFFI 2019 award.
अंतर्राष्ट्रीय फिल्म महोत्सव गोवा में 20 नवंबर से 28 नवंबर तक संपन्न होगा। रजनीकांत को स्पेशल आइकॉन अवार्ड IFFI 50 का दिया गया है, उन्होंने स्वीकार भी किया है और वो उद्घाटन के कार्यक्रम में अमिताभ बच्चन जी भी रहेंगे। उनके द्वारा उद्घाटन का कार्यक्रम में वो होंगे और उसके साथ रजनीकांत भी होंगे, उनको ये अवार्ड दिया जाएगा। तो ये एक बेहतर संयोग होगा।
The Union Minister said that in this festival, which is going to be held between 20th and 28th November, the first time Konkani films will be screened.
गोवा के कोंकणी फिल्म्स 7 कोंकणी फिल्म्स को दिखाया जाएगा। तो गोवा में इतने सालों से फिल्म फेस्टिवल होता है, लेकिन कोंकणी फिल्मों का अलग सेक्शन नहीं था, वो हम दे रहे हैं। और इस बार गोवा सरकार ने 4 एडिशनल स्क्रीन्स दिए हैं, तो लगभग 100 ज़्यादा फिल्में देखने का मौका लोगों को मिलेगा।
That's it then in this edition of Newsnight. Thanks for watching.